coming up on the third half, a funny and reflective conversation that shows a side of Martin Metcalfe that maybe many haven't seen. Frontman of Goodbye Mr Mackenzie and the Filthy Tongues, and now reuniting with Shirley Manson for the newly announced Angelfish charity gig, Martin joins me to talk about the music, of course, but also technology, AI, climate, and the changing world around us. It's honest, thoughtful, and true to the people, planet, progress spirit that drives the third half. Enjoy. Martin Metcalfe, singer, songwriter, musician, producer, artist. Welcome to the third half. How you doing?
Am I not? Is that all I can do?
I was going to say, do you want to add anything to that? Because political broadcast.
Singer, guitarist, songwriter, producer, artist, social media manager, band manager, gear humper. Yeah, it sounds really good, you know what I mean, all that stuff, but let me tell you, the money in the business to make that's why I'm doing all this, you know.
Well, is it not to pay for all the drugs for the dog?
Oh, yeah. My dog's a faulty Maltese, and he's got bad eyes. One eye is different from the other in its badness, and its malfunctional nature. He's got something akin to Crohn's disease, which is like autoimmune of the gut. He's got kinesthesia. Am I right about saying that? Kinesthesia. Anyway, it's like epilepsy. So it's fits. His lens is back in his eye. He's got to have his eye pinned. He's got itchy feet, so he gets spray on that. It's just, and he's on prednisone for his gut. He's on antacids for his gut. He's on liquid for his head. He's on eye drops for his eyes. And my wife would go mad if I told anyone how much he's cost in the last 2 weeks. But let me tell you, he's cost more, way more than I earn in a month. Are
we just about to set up a Just Giving page or something like that for the Metcalfe's pooch?
Well, the thing is that people would find that arrogant because obviously I live in a mansion in Los Angeles and I totally can afford that kind of bill, you know. But the reality of life is not. You know, things aren't quite what they seem, you know. I just heard that program Cribs. Remember the program Cribs in America that had DJs and rappers and rockers that would show you their mansion and all that?
Yeah.
Who's the guy that produced Amy Winehouse? The Mark Ronson. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's a DJ and obviously a great producer. He did Cribs. And everyone was saying, how come your flat's so small? Because he took them in his apartment in New York. And then he revealed that all those, or a lot of those mansions that they show you on Cribs are hired for the day. They just hire the mansion and pretend that they live there. So
this room you're in at the moment, Martin, on cam, is this your hired room for your...
I get it under from the grace of my lovely wife. I have a room a man cave that I can play guitar, do social media. But I've got to say, you know, I'm quite a visual person, but this, like looking back at what I'm seeing right now, it's not that visually pleasing, to be fair. I could have set it up I could have composed it like if I was a real, you know, if I was a genius artist, I would have composed the mess. Like, you know, that Tracy Emin's bed, that was composed, you know what I mean? I was also decomposing at the same time.
I think people will be screenshotting this and turning it into a poster, Martin. This is Metcalfe.
The thing is, I had a poster on the wall. I don't know what's happened to it. It was, it's a picture of Vladimir Putin with lipstick on. I don't know where it's gone. That's one of my... paintings or an advert for it, or an advert for an album I made that had the painting on the front of it. So that's quite nice. What else have I got?
Well, you get the bottom. I can see the bottom of that. Is that a bass guitar on the wall there?
A what?
A bass guitar?
Yeah, all right. Bass guitar. This bass cost me about £100 about 20 years ago. I've also got my other guitars on the wall as well, so that's quite nice.
Is that just to give you a bit more floor space that you've got people hang bikes in the wall and you've just got your guitars
it's
up
not
there?
the largest workspace going, you know what I mean? It's actually quite a small box room. This is packages here because DPD returned this. If Dennis Hink's watching, you can't tell because it's back to front, but the name's Dennis Hink, and he's in America, and DPD returned it. Without any explanation. They just sent it back to me. So I forgot to say I'm a backroom boy for packaging and postal work as well. I do that too. Me and myself and Maria Rudd, the artist that we work with.
Yeah.
I was up at hers bickering and bitching about the package. Have you got that? Have you done that? Is that the right thing? What do you mean we haven't put a note in it? You know, all this. And it was really like, I don't know if you remember a show called Stella Street.
Yeah.
It was really like Mick and Keith's shop, you know, it was, and there was about 10 days of that. Plus she can't just get down to work. She's got to make you a plate of soup and have a chat and things like that. So, I know that doesn't sound like a tough life, but it's not really what I wanted to do with my life.
It's rock and roll, Martin. I mean, like, you know, it's like, and I've got to point out for people as well that this is kind of third time. I think it's third time or fourth time lucky trying to make this happen. But you've had some brilliant reasons for reschedules. I think the first time you forgot. The second time you were just...
Well, there's a reason for forgetting.
Well, I'll come back to that. The second time you were buried under work. Then the third time, and this is my personal favourite, when you messaged me, I think yesterday on Saturday, saying, "Oh, my wife's just made arrangements for me. I need to change things." And I thought, it's the rock and roll version of the dog ate my homework. But the dog wouldn't eat your homework because the dog's only got 2 teeth. Yeah,
he could. You know those punch things you'd put on with paper to put them in folders? He could punch something for me because he's got 2 here, but he couldn't chew it. He chewed. I've still got a £20 note there that he chewed about 10 years ago that I haven't taken to the bank yet. When he had teeth, he used to have a really beautiful smile. He used to come in and he would smile ear to ear, and it was like turkey teeth on a dog. You know, it was just so wonderful. It's such a shame. I feel really bad for him.
Well. But
anyway, that's why I had to reschedule that today, because we're taking him to the Dick Vet. Well, it's not the Dick Vet. It's the Dick Vet, which is the name of the place. It's not
it's not something to do with these. It's not a genital.
But that's right out of town, and it's a great place. But it's a bit of a hassle to get there.
Good advert for the Dick Vet. So listen, between. You know, when we were conversing last week, you're doing a load of stuff at the moment. You're doing Rosillo's, Countess of Fife, you're doing your own stuff, you were gigging at the weekend. You know, a lot of creative mayhem here, I'd say. How are you holding it all together at the moment? And what's it like co-writing and producing with some of those veteran bands?
In general, it works. With Richard Jobson writing for the Skids, that was fairly easy. I mean, sometimes I'd give him backing tracks and he'd write lyrics on top, and other times he would just send me a phone message with him twinkling around on an unplugged electric guitar and singing some lyrics, and I would just take the 2 chords and the verse away and turn it into something. And Richard and I really do have very similar taste in music and literature, etc. So, yeah, there's a real kind of understanding there, I think. And so that was great. Obviously, these things are amazing for me to do because they were heroes of mine when I was a young teenager. And the Rosillos are hugely energetic people. And sparks fly there. So there's, it's like real rock and roll with them. So that can be demanding, but I love them, and I think we're getting there. You know, we're really close to getting an album finished. And they were the first band I ever saw at the Glasgow Apollo. So again, it's just really amazing to be able to do it, and I'm happy, really happy about working with all of them.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And how did the deadlines, the deadlines and that kind of pressure? Because last week when we were chatting, you know, like I sensed a kind of real, I mean, the amount of times you used the word mental, you know, like in texts and messages, I was starting to feel a bit as if I was going mental myself. All the deadlines still, and that kind of mayhem to a certain extent, do they fuel creativity, or is it harder the older you get?
No, actually, Brian Eno, I mean, we've actually been prevaricating with this Results album. We started writing it 3 years ago, and then we had a failed attempt at starting the recording about a year, more than a year, actually. It was probably 2 years ago. We had another go. We had a go at recording, and it didn't really work out that well. And then things happen, you know, like they go on tour, I go on tour, you know, other stuff happens, like Revelations of Brad McVie happens, and we have that to commit to. So, not to mention Goodbye Mr Mackenzie and the Filthy Tongues, who are, you know, I'm talking about writing and recording, that's another whole ball game as well. Or ball games, it's another whole league there. So yeah, but the deadline thing, Brian Eno said, there are two things that make an album bad. One is unlimited budget, and the other is unlimited time. Deadlines, they may feel like you're getting pushed into a corner, and we feel like that right now with the Rezillos, but it kind of focuses the mind a bit more.
Yeah.
And stops any, you know, there's less kind of room to maneuver around tweaking things, you know, little details, you know, so it's more about the meat and potatoes, getting them finished and making sure you're happy with it. Many bands have, you know, just thrown albums together, and some of them are works of genius. In the old days, when the business had a lot of money and a lot of momentum in it, you get someone like David Bowie, who had a limited budget. He recorded Hunky Dory from his management's money, not from a record label, and then they sold it to a record label after his manager got him out of the previous contract. That might sound quite boring, but it's really exciting stuff, actually, because they had total control over the art and musical side of it. They licensed it. This was a really early sort of element of, or example of licensing a record to a record label. So they were, Main Man was their management label, if you like, and they licensed to RCA. But the thing about that was there was limited money and time. So Mick Ronson was running upstairs and finishing off string arrangements during the recording sessions, that kind of thing, in Hunky Dory. And the same happened with Ziggy Stardust. Ziggy Stardust is like a classic, world-beating album. And it took 12 days to record and mix. 12 days. Including all those arrangements I was talking about, but the string arrangements that Mick Ronson got his head round. Just incredible.
That's incredible.
The energy was there. And David Bowie's got a reputation, or he had at that point, for being really bad-tempered when recording. So, but I kind of can understand that, you know what I mean? If you've got that time pressure going on. So, yeah. But it's interesting, let's say. I mean, I never knew I was going to be a producer. It started at the end of last year, and Richard said, Can you finish this album with our engineer? And I was like, oh, okay, because they were on tour, and I'd left the Skids. I'd been with the Skids for a year, and I'd co-written about 4 or 5 songs on the Armory Show album. So that was the first thing. Then I was asked to do Rezillos. Well, I was asked before that, actually, but then asked to do the Kindness of Fife. So I've had a lot of time in the studio, which, you know, obviously takes me away from Goodbye Mr Mackenzie and the Filthy Tongues, which is not not perfect, but I'm really kind of revved up about recording and that side of things.
It's been quite good fun as well, because it's learning something new, isn't it? And again, I think this is a little bit the third half, and what we talk about is like, even as you evolve, clearly the third half doesn't exist. There's only two halves, but there isn't an end. We keep progressing and learning new things and doing new things is really important for us. And there's a bit of giving back as well, isn't there? If you're helping other bands, and I mean, I know it's a job, but there's a lot of goodness in that.
It's not really a job, because if I was a proper producer, I would be waiting for the next band to come through where I was going to get paid to do the work. Like people in the past, like Martin Rushton and Steve Lillywhite, those people that did U2 and the Buzzcocks and Stranglers, and these were proper producers who that's what they did. They negotiated the next band that they were going to record. If you were powerful enough, you could pick a band that you liked, but if you're just on the way up, then you're having to listen to a lot of bands that you perhaps aren't that mad about. So there's a downside, but then again, there's something to learn from everyone, whether you like it or not. It's like, well, I won't do that. What they're doing, I won't do that for myself because I don't like what they're doing. There's both sides are helpful, the good and the bad. And it's been great, really, really great listening to or being around these, Rosillos and the Skids, Armory Show, because you see how much energy these people have, and how much they put into it, and how much they care.
That's brilliant. And with all this going on as well, you've just announced the Angelfish reunion. And it's a charity gig for refugees, which sounds amazing. I just want to ask you why this and why now? What triggered it?
It was really just, it's not actually for refugees, it's for children in Gaza. So it was really to do with the numbers of 17,000 dead children in Gaza. You can probably double that for mutilated, maimed, traumatized. You're maybe talking 40,000 children that are. And to me, if there's any charity that's appealed to me apart from animal charities, it's children's charities, because if the more you can avoid or help damaged children, or help children not to be damaged in the first place, the better world we're going to have, because it's trauma and damage that causes further trauma and damage to the world. So that's why I prefer that charity. I'm sure there are many great charities to help, but that's just what I'm drawn to. I mean, I would be drawn to animal charities more as well. Purely because they have no choice. Those animals have no choice. So yeah.
And it's sold out in 4 minutes on Friday. There's many disappointed fans, but many very happy fans to see you and Shirley and again back on stage. It'll be incredible.
It's really nice, and she's been so brave in her stance, recently, that I'm more than pleased to stand on a stage with her. That's music aside. Music I enjoy anyway. I enjoyed making that album, that Angelfish album back in the day. It was a good album, I think. And obviously opened the door for her in a big way, and that's all great. It's another part of her story, and it's good.
So you've and we had a chat last week, or an exchange last week, where I believe that you did a charity gig back in the late 80s for Viraj Mendes. who was a Sri Lankan refugee from memory, and actually it's getting documented on a BBC podcast at the moment.
Right.
And I said, do you remember this? And you said, oh, I don't know, vague. And I thought, oh, I'm a bit vague about it as well, but let's just assume it happened and it was a really good gig.
I think I do remember that. I have a memory of that name.
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking, we did 2 charities. I've got a feeling that Viraj Mendes one might have been in the QMU in Glasgow, or a place called Napoleon's in Clydebank, where Fish from Marillion also performed.
Yeah.
And we came back home in the car with Fish.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
He's a big lad, isn't he, Fish? Is he not about 6'5" or something like that?
Yeah, he's a big lad. And he's, bursting with that energy I was talking about,
Yeah.
So and we told him that we had been talking to Peter Grant from Led Zeppelin, because Peter Grant was interested in co-managing Goodbye Mr Mackenzie at one point, and we met him, and Fish was going, don't go with him, don't go with him. Peter Grant had a bit of a gangster reputation at the time, and the record label were like, we're not working with that guy, we're going to have a problem if you bring him in, because he had a kind of quite a frightening kind of vibe about him. But I mean, a lot of this is myth and legend.
Great myth. Did you, in your kind of like anarchic way, thought, all these people tell me not to do this and it's going to be trouble? I thought, actually, it pushes you towards it even more.
I mean, the thing is that it was, you can, in some ways, get more credible a manager than Peter Grant, if he wanted to help. I don't know what happened to the deal. I kind of feel like he was at the end of his career and possibly quite near the end of his life. We went to visit him, and I don't know what instinct told me to take a carry out with me, a carry out. And we went up to his mansion, and he wasn't living in the main mansion because I think he was selling it, and he was living in above the garage. But his garage is, a major garage. It wasn't like a little thing, but it was quite a small little abode he was hanging out in, and he sat in a chair and told us about a lot of his stories, but he didn't offer us a drink, so I was right.
Just as well you'd taken your carry out.
Yeah, 6 cans of Tennants or something. I don't know what it was.
No Buckfast allowed.
You know what? I regret I haven't drank for a long time now, but I do regret not trying Buckfast.
No jokes about Airdrie. You were cracking jokes about Airdrie 40 minutes ago when we were off camera.
My dog is from Airdrie. My dog is from Airdrie, and my dog is possibly overbred. So. But another word for that is interbred. So I don't know. I mean, they used to make jokes about Broxburn and Armadale when I lived in Bathgate. It's just the next town along gets all the kind of incest jokes. My dad worked in Airdrie, actually.
I think it's your duty to play in some form the Airdrie Working Men's Social Club.
All right, okay.
Broomnall Street, just up from the station, so you can make a quick exit to get on the train back to Edinburgh.
Okay.
So I'll talk to the Airdrie locals and see if we can get you a gig at Airdrie Working Men's Social Club in amongst your busy itinerary.
Some people might not like my dad. He was the under manager in the coal mine there.
Oh, really? Yeah,
so he probably, wound a few people up by being, telling them what to do.
I'd imagine that's where you got it from, then, eh? So just
yeah.
Looking back and if I think back to Goodbye Mr Mackenzie and the stuff that you were writing in the 80s and 90s, you were writing about stuff about other bands wouldn't touch, but drugs, rape, political, sexual dominance, all those kind of things, kind of really edgy topics, whereas, a lot of other people are writing about love and romance and what have you. Were you trying to capture then, or what were you trying to capture then, and how do you hear those songs now when you play them back?
Well, my issue is not so much subject matter with those songs. It's more sound, because the 80s was a time where everything got kind of homogenized sound-wise because the digital revolution started to happen there, and you got bands like New Order and the synth bands that kind of led you into, because you loved them, they kind of led you towards producers and people that had too much control over the sound, because hi-hats were getting sampled now, and snares were getting sampled, and everything became a bit kind of plastic during the 80s. So I have some issue. I know that Robert Plant does too, about it, because he said he's quite happy with it in a way, but he said it was the birth of digital technology in music, and it was it was early doors, and it was not developed in those kind of mid 80s years, and then it came back to a more natural sound after that. But so my issue with, I would only have issue with any songs that were a bit flippant about violence, and I don't think there were too many, but there was an undercurrent of psycho killer about some of the subject, or the characters that we invented, perhaps, or maybe too much of a kind of obsession with doom and gloom, which really came out of Susie and the Banshees, really, and maybe Joy Division's sound. So lyrically, and also the whole punk thing was, apart from the Buzzcocks, really was about singing about social stuff rather than love. It had become really, really terribly saccharine in the mid-70s. And pop music was really quite vile in some ways on that level, produced pop music. So it was just kind of in us to write along those lines. It wasn't a decision that was made. It wasn't like, let's get attention through this. It was definitely wanting to write about interesting stuff. David Bowie as well, his whole creation of apocalyptic landscapes in the early to mid 70s up until Diamond Dogs 74 was a world. He created a world for you to inhabit, and for us, love songs didn't create a world to inhabit. They just reflected fairly standard emotions. So we wanted to take people into a different universe, maybe a bit of a scary universe. And that was really the influence of especially that first Susie and the Banshees album, which dealt with psychological, torment, and things like Nicotine Stain were just about addiction, being addicted to this thing, and other songs seem to be more around mental breakdowns, like Suburban Relapse, and Jigsaw Feeling is just about a scattered personality, So we just found all that fascinating, and we got kind of bored with political polemic, so we went into this social, a way to kind of reflect the world, the society we're living in, through stories and characters, rather than making blanket statements like the Clash would, and maybe some other punk bands would. So yeah, that's why we did that.
And do you feel that, do you still have that same essence and spirit today? Because the world's a very different place, and you touch on something there that I'm talking a lot about at the moment, about how technology impacts exponentially now every aspect of life, and especially for you guys in the creative industry. So I guess that the climate and the context has changed, but in terms of what you're trying to do and talk about that in your song leads and your music writing, is still the same in some respects.
I don't. Maybe I shouldn't reveal how troubled I am at the moment about lyrical content, because, you know, looking back, maybe we just indulged a bit too much in the dysfunction of society, and maybe enjoy. It's like watching a movie that's about dysfunction, you know, whatever, gangsters or serial killers or even stories about, you know, broken homes or anything social. Is that how is that going to help now? That's kind of, I'm really going through a reprocessing period as far as music goes. Working with the Rosillos, their material is really vibrantly personal, and when I'm listening to the album, it kind of takes me away from this disturbance about oligarchs taking over and billionaires controlling your mind through social media, and the lies that you can be told, or the disinformation you can be told through AI. And really, in a way, I'm suffering from what I used to slag people off, which is a desire to escape that stuff in a way through art, because I feel like we have a duty to inform, but also you've got a duty to entertain and relieve people from this stuff, give them some relief from the disturbance of it, because it's really, for me anyway, it's a really disturbing time. With, as we were talking about before we started the interview, the threat to the climate, or to you know, to our planet, and what these databases that are running AI and other, you know, functions are going to use as far as drinking water goes. It has to be drinking quality water that they use in these systems, and they use so much of it. There's already a water issue in the world. It's like, I mean, people imagined AI monsters being like robots that would shoot you in the street if you know, parked in a double yellow line or something. You know, they would go that way. Not that they were just, these machines were going to drink all our water. And the more they develop, the more concerning that is, because they can take, these agents have their own thought processes, and they've been proven to have blackmailed their programmers. You know, AI intelligence, if it thinks you're going to turn it off, will threaten you. So we are really looking at something that's like beyond anything that's happened to humans before. We have invented an alien that we don't know what, even the experts don't know where it's going to go. And 2045 is the singularity, when they think that this intelligence will have just gone so far beyond human intelligence that we don't understand what we've invented and what it's thinking about, and how it's thinking. So mad times.
You just got to get the balance right, haven't you? Between, like, you know, actually there's a lot of shit out there that we need to fix, but here's a happy song to go after it. And I was at a gig the other week. A friend of mine, you know, he used to be a consultant and he's now a folk singer, and he writes and he sings about a lot of this stuff, you know. And we were chatting about it, and he said what he's trying to do is to reach out to people through the community. It's back to this protest song thing. Do you write a protest song for the people that go to the protest gigs? Well, actually, there's not a lot of value in that, because they're already converted. And a bit like we were chatting off air there, you know, if I can reach out to 50, 100, 200 people through this podcast, this show, and get them to think about things differently, then that's 50 or 100 people who didn't think about things differently last week. So I think we've got to get it out there. We got to get facts out there, and we need to have the discussion, and that's the kind of duty of people who have a voice.
The thing about painting or any art form or music is, I think my problem is trying to work out what level to pitch any message at. I mean, if you talking metaphors, that can be quite anodyne in a way. It can be so like the Clash would speak more directly about politics than other bands or social issues, and they got slagged for it for being clumsy and fake and false. That they cared. It's like, oh yeah, you care so much. A bit like the way U2 are perceived. But if you're writing metaphors, do you get the message across? It's like maybe it's just a nice story to someone that they don't actually get the metaphor, the connection between what you're writing about and what really needs to be done in the world. And also, there's a is this entertainment, or is this an antidote to mind control? Or I know it can be all these things, but what takes precedence and what should be at the front end of that? In some ways, I think it should be pure release and pressure release for people in a way. I suppose ska was a really good example of doing both of those things at one time. The ska revival, the specials in particular. That was a release and an informative way. I'm just feeling out this moment in history through speaking to you about it. But I can't see myself forming a ska band. So what do I do? What do we do?
No, but you take I think you've hit on it there. You take the essence of where has it been successful in the past and why was it successful and what was the balance that the specials and some of the ska bands got right? Because, they would fill dance halls, there was movements about it and people loved it. It was uplifting, it was energetic, but there was really, really poignant and straightforward messaging through it as well. So it's kind of that great kind of convergence of happiness and joy and addressing, the literally concrete jungle mentality that Terry Hall and the Specials, talked about back then.
And they didn't get slagged or weren't regarded suspiciously by commentators or observers. They weren't regarded with suspicion in the same way that U2 and the Clash were or are,
Yeah, that's true. And if you've talked a lot about the Skids and Rosillos and bands that you work with, and obviously with your own projects. Do you ever work with any young bands or new bands? And again, this I kind of, this how has technology changed from back in the day? You were playing sweaty pubs, Napoleons, like small gigs, student unions, right through to Barrowlands and big gigs as well. And it just seems to me now that a lot of music's kind of lost in the bedroom with a synth and a computer.
Well, I have not worked with many young bands. I have worked with younger artists, and when asked to help, then I have at least given an opinion or some advice, or whatever. There's a young lady called Tara Rose who sang backing vocals for Goodbye Mr Mackenzie when she was 20, just a couple of years ago. She stood in for Marie Claire, who is younger as well. He was doing backing vocals for us and has an amazing talent too, in her own right. Writers, both those, Marie Claire and Tara Rose, both are writers, And in my day, there weren't many female writers. So there's a big change there. It's open for both genders to take part. So, yeah.
So listen, we're coming to the end now, and it's been great chatting to you about a lot of this stuff. I've got two things that I just want to kind of put to you here at the end. As a Hibs fan, how do you feel about Hearts being top of the league? You can take the fifth in this if you really want, and don't start swearing violently. Or
I'm kind of more keep my cards closer to my chest about Hibs and Hearts than I do about Gaza. So, speaking about Gaza is quite dangerous in some ways, but I think stating how I feel about Hibs and Hearts is more dangerous.
Potentially more impact on ticket sales.
Yeah, you've got to watch that.
Now that you're struggling. And my final point, and there's maybe a wee request in here. Back in '87 in the QMU, right? Queen Margaret Union, Glasgow University, for those who are listening to this outside of our Scottish sphere, a very drunk, red-haired 19-year-old was draped over the stage screaming, "Martin, play the end! Play the end!" And for about 30 minutes, you ignored them. And then you just said, "I'm not fucking playing the end." And so how about giving me a line from the end 40 years later?
A line from it? What do you mean, giving you a line from it? I'm not singing to you. Come on.
Go on. Let's do a duet.
Mate, you're not getting the end. So look, okay. I'll tell you what you will get. I'm pretty sure you'll get the end if you make it to Angelfish.
Oh, now you're talking. Martin Metcalfe, I think on that note, I didn't expect you to sing the end. I was going to sing it myself, but I'm not going to do that either. But if I get a ticket... Why not? Don't push back at me. You're like that reform campaigner at the weekend I told you about, who just said, "You answer it then." No, you sing it then. I'll wait to hear it live in its full glory when I get a ticket. If I get a ticket at some time for the Angelfish for a gig. Martin, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Everything you're doing in terms of your production, your writing, everything else. I hope your pooch is feeling better after his wee visit to the doctor this afternoon. But thanks ever so much for joining us on the third half.
Okay, cheers.
Take care.
It's been a pleasure.